I'm Linda of Windy Oaks Farm in South Central Pennsylvania, and I'm here today preparing a fleece to go to the mill. Now, this fleece is from one of my Shetland sheep, Hecate, and it was not shorn very well, unfortunately. The person who did it, I don't think they're very experienced with Shetlands, and they had trouble shearing the fleece. So there's a lot of differing lengths on this particular fleece. On top of that, I think Hecate likes to roll in the hay, and it is just filled with little bits of what's called VM, hay, straw, grass, etc. So I'm going through and doing a manual sorting of this fleece, pulling out locks and making sure that they are long enough and that there is not a whole lot of VM left in the fleece. Now, I'm not trying to get it perfectly clean. The machinery at the mill will do some of it. I'm also going to run it through what's called a tumbler, which looks like a big dryer, and a lot of the VM will fall out when it's in the tumbler. But I want to at least get it at an acceptable standard to send to the mill. Now, it's important to remember the computer term GIGO when dealing with a mill. Garbage in, garbage out. Unlike a human who can spend the time and be gentle on a fleece to get all of the VM out, the machines at a mill are set to a certain standard, and they can get gummed up if the fleece is too full of lanolin. If it's got too much VM, it can get in the works of the machine and really make it hard to process. So although you would think that sending your ugliest fleece to the mill would be great because they have the most technology, really it's the other way around. You want to send your nicest fleeces to the mill because those will go through the machines most easily. Now, in this case, like I said, there are some differences in the fleece. Most of it is pretty good. What I like to do is I like to check it against my finger. So if the fleece is at least as long as my first finger, not pulled too tightly, but just sort of laid against it, I will send it to the mill. If it is shorter than that, I will not. Now you notice these sort of pale tips on the end of this. Hopefully you can see that. These actually can pull right off. So I don't include that tip when I am considering whether or not to send a particular lock to the mill. So that does make it a little bit shorter, but it's still long enough for me to send. Now there are a lot of different tricks you can do for getting VM out. One of them, of course, is combing your fleece using combs like Vikings or Valkyries or something like that. And that's a good way because that pulls each strand of the fleece straight, and it pulls it so that the VM falls out as the strands get thinner and thinner and wider apart. There's nothing for the VM to grip onto. And that is actually one of the techniques that you can use if you're trying to get VM out. It's called picking, and it's where you pull your locks apart. And what that does is it opens up the structure of the fiber, and it makes it harder for the VM to hold on to, and it just gets the VM out. But it's also very time consuming to pick a whole fleece. You can also shake your fleece. And one of the nice things that shaking is good for is that it also gets out a lot of the second cuts. You can see these little pieces that are falling off as you shake it. The other thing to think about when you're pulling VM out by hand, I don't know if you can see it from this distance, but the seed heads of many plants are shaped somewhat like an arrowhead. And if you are, oops, I just put that in my clean fleece pile. If you are pulling it out and you want to make sure that you don't split your seed head into multiple little pieces, make sure that you are pulling it in the direction. So if the seed head is like this, you want to pull it from this side so it goes smoothly. You don't want to pull it from this side, which will open up the seed heads. And the other thing I like to do is I like to wash my fleece after I finish pulling all the VM out or tumbling it or what have you, because I find that if I do it after washing, not as much comes out. And I don't know exactly why that is. I think it might have to do with the lanolin being a little slipperier. That's just a guess. So I do wash it after, and I do like to wash fleeces that are going to the mill because you pay on the incoming weight and you pay on what processes they have to do. So if you have already taken out the VM and you've already washed your fleece, you're going to pay a lot less at the mill than you would if they were doing those for you. Now it's not perfect. Sometimes they may look at it and go, yeah, we really need to wash this again, and then they wash it again. But if you can give them a good fleece that's ready to be processed, then you're going to save yourself money. You're spending that same money in your own time. But I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives a quick idea of how to prep a fleece for the mill. And let's see, this is a good example of a lock that is way too short, just before I finish up here. That is, I could set it aside and I could use it myself. I could card it myself on my drum carder, or I could just toss it in the bucket to go out in the compost. So it's really up to you how much work you want to use, how much you want to save of the fleece, etc. So you have options. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please click like, and please click subscribe if you want to see more about the workings of a fiber farm and how to handle fleece. Thank you so much.